Loop's artist duo based in hyperspace and are currently right behind the screen, so you can't see them, but they're there. Their work range from new media to audiovisual performances and digital storytelling, utilizing AI and machine learning algorithms. They both have a background in music, design, and direction. Today, we'll be talking about their live audiovisual performance, which you can experience tonight, that is titled Hyper Hologram. This performance was premiered at the last edition of Sonar Istanbul and as part of the Digilogue AV program. Olaf, the director of today's art, was there with Evelina Domit, Dimitri Geflang, and Carsten Nicolai to watch it, which was a nice audience for a premiere of an original performance. And in quoting their words, it is good as it. They don't make music like that anymore. And we thought it would be a good idea to showcase this work as part of today's art and Digilogue collaboration. So what is hyperhologram? We will learn more about it, but we're going to start with a short teaser of their performance.
So what is hyperhologram?
So hello everyone, thank you Juliette and Madeline and everybody who made this happen, and of course all over we are super excited to be here and to perform at today's art festival. Well, a most down-to-earth definition of hyperhologram would be uh, an audiovisual performance, but we would like to think that it's composed of many layers such as philosophy, mythology, research of AI, technology, and even a bit of satire and perhaps sense of exploration involved in it.
Hello, and it's A here. Thanks for having us. It's quite a pleasure to be here and to Berlin and Juliet and so on. I think it kind of feels weird to talk about it because it feels like possibly talking about too much would undermine it. I think a part of it's meant to be left unexplained and abstract, so each observer's input or perspective could also alter the world just a bit.
So after all, how did you make hyperhologram? How did the project develop?
We're close friends for almost 10 years now, but I think about 2 years ago we met for a lunch and had a brief chat about what's new out there and so on. It didn't hit us for a year, but around the last year I think we had synth those synth. And I think at that moment it kind of felt like, okay, this is meant to become something that seems larger than it seems now. And then after all, we just basically kept on doing the same thing over and over. We feel like we stay, and in the end, it built itself, like all its layers.
So I guess I want to add that like we started working on that weird sketchbook-like videos, which contains small audio demos, emails we send each other, friendship notes, and even things like stage planning. We would see, we're gonna see on the performance as well. So these all almost seem to mutually connect and make our personal interactions, process of creation, and the very moment where the ideas are born. Uh, then this become like a sort of teaser of the work which we sent to Malin, and in fact was the first and the only one person that we shared our work for a while.
Do you remember that? Lily, do you remember that?
Yeah, you sent me a teaser video and presentation in your digital sketchbook. I was so curious about your notes. I wasn't sure if they were for me, and even if it weren't for me, that excited me even more because if those notes would be shown during the performance in the screen, and then I was thinking like, what are they? I was pushing you guys to send me super detailed technical writers, so I think you added some notes into it, and then which kind of became added into the performance itself.
Yeah. And perhaps we can add that hyperhologram means that each of those elements mentioned, that I mentioned, philosophy, a sense of newness, our personal ways of making sense of our realities, and in all those things that sometimes seem so unreal, made each other real. So,
Yeah, I think part of that sounds like a cosmic image in a way, but I think for us, one simple example from our lives would be that the creation of this project was sort of like a reflection between us. I mean, the very creative process we had, our creating was like it would grow exponentially in terms of ideas. And in scientific terms, what hyperhologram means is that without the observer itself, the thing that is observed is not there or existent. So I think our creative process was quite inspired by this idea. And as C mentioned, we like to think that this work has quite a few layers, like philosophy, satire, actual use of AI during the creation of art and so on. And we like to think that all of these elements somehow feed each other in a very kind of way. Yeah, so I think that's it. Was about a hologram.
So it's something that revolves around, as you said, poetics, maybe archaeology of media, and humor, because you guys are funny, and a satire of the performing arts in itself. When even with this slide, you can see kind of a fuck up version of like the technical writer. And so, how does this performance begin?
so for us, a performance should have a setting. So therefore, our performance begins by creating the setting and the scene first. So I can. Uh,
Well, do you know what this is? I mean,
Yeah, isn't it the Cityscapes dataset shared in 2016 at a conference on computer vision and pattern recognition?
yes, that is correct. Actually, we do have backgrounds in ML and AI, and that is actually a data set we use in research of AI or ML. probably everyone in this field will recognize this one, and it feels cheeky to use this set in this context, but we like to think that we took that and recontextualized it in a way that it's almost feels like a way in, or opera-like kind of beginning of this hyper-real performance in this world. So I think that is how it all begins, by setting the platform or the scene where the performance should be on, if that makes sense. Yeah, I think that's it. By the way, I should add that this dataset actually is used to reconstruct almost real-life looking images. I mean, in the actual use of machine learning. So I think, in a way, it feels poetic to think that hyperhologram is a bit like that as well. I mean, just to reconstruct something from something that is not so real or almost feels plastic, in a way. Like this.
You were telling me hyperhologram meant for you that the observer, being observed, validates its own reality. So in this land, do you mean we don't need real things to validate our realness? Or that virtual creations only need each other's gaze to become real, to confirm each other's existence? So can we say the hyperhologram is a collage of mixed realities, digital realms where entities are alive and mingle with each other, paying homages to other artists or particular developments in technology? For example, I saw that there's a phrase involved there, which is hyperland. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, sure. One thing is that maybe we should add about what hologram means is that, as you mentioned, it has quite a few layers like philosophy, sometimes dead serious emotional stuff, or personal lives experiences, I mean research, like so many things. And just as perhaps some satire feeds emotions and emotions feed something else, what we meant, I think, with Hyperland was a sense of next level romanticism. I mean, when you think about it, majority of painters in England particularly focused on landscape with the concern of one's relationship with nature. So I think to us it feels like, for them, a view of hills or mountain tops were kind of a romance of a land they could never go or they wanted to go. And I think we took that thing like VR and ML and AI and took it in a very romantic way. I think whether it's a hilltop because that you want to go or a computer simulation, it's just as romantic as a mountain view. I think that this is a new version of romanticism. In a way, perhaps even from 50 years from now, people will just go on and say the VR artists of today are the new romantics, perhaps.
So this image serves as an introduction for the new reality because it's the first image. It's kind of like a call for action where this constructed topology where your opera is based, your headquarters. So where is this place?
Actually, currently we have no place, but we are looking for it, and we would like to have an abandoned shopping mall for our office.
Yeah, I want to have the food court as my office, and he wants to have the parking place as office.
But I mean, your artistic practice has a lot of satirical elements, but we'll come to that later on. So let's talk about Affect's Twin a bit. Tell me more on Affect's Twin and the AI model trained on his music.
First of all, we are really big fan of him.
Well, basically and kindly, we try to make an FX with AI model with the help of generation of actual music, which sounds like FX himself. It was half a joke. We self-mockingly would imitate like hyper individuals beyond identity, cultural references of like 24th, 25th century and so on, paying homage to geniuses of our times like Aphex. Like anyone should do who's getting into this kind of stuff. We kind of delved into this world of AI a few years ago, and I think the first open source research project which involves music generation is Google's Magenta. And this was the first attempt we, sorry, I think this was the first attempt we tried to use Google's Magenta using their RNN models. We took a few MIDI files. I think the thing is that these things usually require a huge data set, but we started by using only a few hundreds of MIDI files. But then I think it kind of worked in the end, and the track actually sounds like an Apex melody. So that's it, and this was perhaps a key moment when this project started to spark.
So did Richie mind it after all?
Vienna.
Yeah,
And this is interesting because it's what we call deictics, where you point a finger at someone or a thing or specify the moment as this, or like an entity in itself. The screen assumes a persona, almost talking to affects directly. So the performance becomes a dialogue and expands beyond the duration of the act. In a way, you guys hack the audiovisual performance and tackle the idea of communicating with the audience from the perspective of deictics, meaning that you engage in a direct conversation with viewers, and not only with the viewers but other artists, marking and punctuating the narrative, which is a part of the remix culture, the sampling of affects' persona mixed with your own, endless possibility of collaboration without even needing their consent.
Yeah. Actually, it's an interesting point because it's like sampling someone's music or persona or something. Yeah, interesting.
Even dead people.
Yeah. Yeah.
One another example we studied this concept was another track. The track is called Private Innocence, and it derives from a saying about Rachmaninoff, which is Rachmaninoff didn't die, God took him for private piano lessons. And one day in our studio, we were working on a track on one machine and we were training an AI model on another one. And basically, this process itself inspired us to create a track about this process. Almost I think it metaphorically. This actually is the only track which we actually don't utilize, AI or ML, but it's a metaphorical study of this process itself. And this was, what you see on the screen is an email that is sent from one to another about this process. This will be on screen as well tonight on the performance. Yeah, I mean, it's a strange thing you said about dead people because now he's dead, but now we can almost resurrect him in a way. I mean, just one more. It's quite interesting to think about this because imagine sitting in front of a piano, trying to write a piece of music. I mean, everything that makes you who you are affects that process itself. For example, how the day was sitting in front of the piano, and how was your childhood like, and so on. All of these small things that work as an algorithm, and all of these somehow gets distilled into the piece that you're writing. And I think we were intrinsically studying this through the philosophical approach about AI.
It's interesting. So it's more of a metaphorical approach to artificial intelligence in the sense that not only you deploy the tool and the data sets itself, but also you deploy the dead person as a resurrection into this digital realm. And for those who isn't familiar, Sergei Vasilyevich Rachmaninoff was a Russian pianist, composer and conductor of the late Romantic period, and he was practically a prodigy. So why are you so interested in AI?
First of all, one of us giving lectures about coding in ML, and well, first we started making music and synergetically making visuals as well, but at some point we need some other elements, and at that point we started to work with AI. Um,
I think it has a few layers. One saying about, from Spinoza, I think sums it quite well. And it's like, the more clearly you understand yourself and your emotions, the more become a lot of what it is. I think what we do, intrinsically what we do in art or science is the same, to understand what it means to be us and what's around us, like nature itself, and what's the role of us in all of this. I think in this project called cslasha, we do have professional backgrounds, we do have academic sides, but what we try to do is to explore what the metaphorical of this philosophical approach and the actual use of this advancements in technology. So I think what's beautiful about AI, or why we're in this, is not so different. I mean, it's all about self-understanding, and AI serves us quite well in this because it's almost like you have to understand before building it. So, and you have to understand this common but simple things like what is the problem, what is the solution, what's action reaction, or just prediction or reasoning. All these things that seem so simple seems to be more abstract than it seems. So that's why I think why we're into this.
So coming back to your satirical touch and performance art, can you talk a bit more about that? And why and how does that satire help in overcoming what we call the formalist pornography, I would say, most of the time related with digital works nowadays, is that the aesthetics of the code itself creates a lot of abstractions. But here it seems that you sometimes utilize code aesthetics, but then also you approach the AI from a metaphorical way so that you come up with more figurative or things that are similar to digital storytelling.
Good question, by the way, thanks. Um, I think these are all quite new things. I mean, there are so many artists around here, but it's a good thing that we can talk about these, but we also have to be quite critical about all these. I mean, we work in the field of new media as well, but we are also quite critical of that. We used to talk about this story from Barth, actually, a few days ago. Maybe I can put an analogy on top of that. In the story, there's this one master who does this giving shapes to trees. I don't know what's the name of the art. Is it topiary? I don't know. Just the art of giving shapes to trees, but small trees. Well, anyway, one day he has an apprentice, and all this apprentice wants to do is to give a perfect shape of a sphere to this little tree he has. And okay, says master, okay, now go make a perfect sphere of this tree. And then he goes home and practices on this, but as weeks pass, he cuts off one branch and another one grows somewhere else. So he just can't give this perfect shape. But then one day he manages and takes the tree to the master, but the master says, okay, now you have form, but now you have lost the tree. So, yeah, what's beautiful about this story is that we exemplify a lot of data visualizations today. I mean, we could change the CSV file behind these, and the output would still look similar. I mean, what's behind and what's the context of it actually doesn't really matter. So it all becomes about the form and the aesthetics of it. So I think in a way, our way of working all these helps us actually to build an aesthetic which is almost satirical but also quite original as well. Yeah, I think that's the satire we have. I mean, we even self-mock ourselves by putting the stage plans we use.
Thank you. Can you tell us a bit about your next project?
Um, we will be premiering a new body work at Digitalism in Istanbul at the end of October, I think. It's called Claire. It's a recontextualization of this pop star Grimes. Maybe there are some people heard of her.
Are you like in love with her or something?
Not really, but we took a video of hers like called Reality. Anyone heard of that? Okay, now, and we took that video of Grimes and Train again on that to create new frames of this video, and we started working with call this another reality, perhaps. And so it's almost like a self-study of these new advancements in technology, like GANs, but we also used Grimes as something to as a context, I think. But I'm not in love with it. No. Are you?
But one more goal nowadays that we want to perform as much as we can do that project Hologram, because it's we are having really fun while we are live doing.
It's quite fun to perform live, yeah. And so I think that's the main goal we're after now, to play more.
Okay, thank you for all of this. So, Juliette, if you're there, if there's any questions that we can try to answer.
Questions in the audience? Did I wake you up? So, at what time are you playing tonight?
At,
Good
at
question.
12
At 12?
midnight at Part Small Hall.
In a small hall, they're playing.
Yeah.